Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We are still 1 minute away from the start. Before we do so, I would like to ask you, can you hear me? You can use your chat. Yes, thank you. Okay, perfect. So the next thing I would like you to ask you about is notice the chat. If you have any questions, please drop a line on the chat there. I will refer to those questions at the very end. We are going to have a Q&A session dedicated for that as well. Okay, it is 3 p.m. on my watch, so I believe we can start. Since this is a 1-hour event and I also represent the Agile and Atlassian Competency Center, so I want us to be agile, so I want to stick to the time box. And within that 1 hour that we have here, I will try to convey as much value as possible about what we do and how we personally use one of the best, if not the best, IT suites for project portfolio management. So we are going to talk about the Holy Grail of project portfolio management, the practical use cases of Atlassian platform. So as far as the agenda is concerned, I will provide you with a brief introduction about who we are for those of you who don't know SII, and I will also introduce myself a little bit about my background, what I do, what is my focus, and then I will tell you about the framework that we use in the tool that you will also see. And then after that, I will go directly in the tool. So most of the webinar that we're going to spend, most of the time on the webinar that we're going to spend today is the time that you will see the tool as it is. So I'm going to give you a live screen share of the tool, the way we're using it. For obvious reasons, I cannot disclose any customer information, so you're going to see different projects, but I will focus on the most focal functionalities of the tool that we use and that we recommend to be used from the perspective of a project manager, program manager, and portfolio manager. And then we will have a dedicated Q&A session should you have any questions. Yeah, there is a question. So before we start, I can already answer that question. Yes, this session will be recorded, and this recording will be made available for those of you who are registered to the webinar as well. All right. So SII is the largest technology consulting company in Poland, focusing on digital transformations, business process outsourcing, engineering services. So we hire almost 5,000 people with 14 years of experience in the market. We have a vast area of coverage when it comes to technology. We are a very stable in terms of, we are a very stable company in terms of financial aspects, with over 200 million euros annual revenue, and we are present not only in 14 biggest cities in Poland, but we are also present in multiple countries all across Europe and all across the globe. SII Poland offers a wide area of technology coverage. So whenever you have a challenge with digital aspects, with SAP, with legacy systems, with IT operations, with engineering, Salesforce, business intelligence, or any other technological aspect, we can also help. So we are not solely focused on Agile and Atlassian, but we are also there to help you out with many other technological challenges and technological aspects you can face. We quite often actually connect a couple of different competency centers as we speak. So, for example, we may help you in your SAP, in your SAP implementation system, but we can also help you in Agile and Atlassian. So we can implement SAP in an Agile way, or we can implement SAP using the Atlassian platform as well. So this interconnection between different competency centers in our company is what really makes it valuable for our customers. So just briefly about me. My name is Martin. I've been working in project management for over 15 years. I've been working in quite a variety of roles. I've been a project team member, project manager, program manager, project portfolio manager, head of PMO. I've been a consultant. I specialize in scaling agile, implementing project management methodologies. And I used to lead quite a couple of different big digital transformations, strategic transformations in multinational corporations. So basically, I have the perspective of the project, program, and the portfolio manager. Plus, I am strongly kind of on the business side, so I have a strong business acumen. So that's my biggest focus actually in terms of project portfolio management. So I'm going to try to convey that focus to you as well, and really really show the challenges from the business perspective. So what you're going to see next in a couple of minutes is the framework that we use in SII. This is our standard project portfolio management framework that is based on DSDM, Dynamic Systems Development Model. Perhaps some of you have already heard about that. That's one of the most common, one of the most popular agile project management frameworks. So it consists of a couple of different stages: the pre-project business foundations. Then where on the business foundations we define the business case and the product backlog. Then we focus on the solution foundation, trying to figure out how the solution should look like from a technological standpoint of view. Then we focus on the management foundations, trying to figure out how to execute the plan that we have. So figuring out the delivery plan, figuring out the delivery approach. And then we have a phase of delivery control where we actually execute the work. And of course, we finalize it with review and benefit to make sure that everything we planned for was delivered and that the benefits were achieved. The key message I want to give you here is that we use the tool in our own customized way. So we use the framework that you just see. If you have a different framework, this is not a problem. Why? Because we are very capable of easily customizing that framework into the specificity of different customers and different organizations. As a matter of fact, the framework that you're seeing right now is in a vast majority implemented in one of the biggest retailers in the world. Of course, this company has some specificities, so we tweak and adjust that framework. But the solution that I will show you, the value added that I will show you, is not only made up by us and used internally, but it is also appreciated on the market, business proven. So the customers really see value in that. And of course, we tweak that value to make sure that they have optimal value delivery there. So we are going to focus on three aspects. The first aspect is the portfolio management, where I'm going to show you the resources and skills. Then the program management, where now we'll focus not only on resources, but also on dependencies, on workload, and on risks. The traditional project management will have more focus on the progress of the project and the work allocation. We're going to, for the sake of this discussion, we're going to skip the business as usual. It's just standard reports that you can have out of multiple different tools. And so the last slide before we move on to the actual kind of contents, the actual screenshots or the actual screen flow of the system is I want to show you why we use Atlassian. We use Atlassian because this is one of the best tools for enterprise agile planning. The Magic Quadrant, as of March 2020, placed Atlassian at the top. So it has the most complete vision, and it has pretty much the biggest ability to execute. So definitely, it's one of the leaders. It's the leader. It's one of the best tools when it comes to enterprise agile planning. So we use that tool also for our customers, but we use that tool also internally in order to measure the progress of our work, to identify dependencies, to manage risks, to understand the resources, the capacity, to manage the capacity versus demand, to match those, and to manage resources and skills. And this is exactly what I'm going to show to you right now. So let's start with the project aspect. So we're going to focus on the project management first. So when it comes to the project management, we have a single project that can consist of multiple different issues. Issues is how we call it in Jira, but basically those are activities that we have. Those are smaller deliverables, part of our framework. So as you can see, there are issues in the business foundation, solution foundation, management foundation, which are very consistent with the framework that we use. So every project can have multiple issues. Every project can have an original estimate. In this case, it's an 8-week estimate, and we can all track, or we can all log our work into the project. Jira is a system that is used widely across the organization so that everybody can kind of provide their own input as well. So this is one of the basis of the philosophy of using that system. Everyone is using that system. It's not only a system used by the project manager. This is what you can quite often see when you use, for example, Microsoft Project. It's only used by the project manager. Nobody else uses that. Nobody else understands the schedule. It's a great tool, but it's really complex. Whereas Jira and the Atlassian platform itself is quite an easy tool to use for everybody, quite intuitive, and it really bases on the philosophy that everyone actually uses it. Everyone puts their data in, everyone logs their work, everyone identifies risks, everyone can identify dependencies, and we use only Jira to communicate. And this is also what we use in our company, in our competency center. Jira is the basis for our communication. So we use very little email, we use very little other ways of communication. We focus mostly on Jira. If I want to know what it is that I have to do, I should see my list of tasks in Jira. And this is what I'm going to show you right now from the perspective of a project manager or a team leader. So what we have is a project that consists of multiple issues, and now I'm going to show you directly a dashboard that we use that I use as a team leader, that we use as team leaders or project managers. So this is a dashboard that is created out of different gadgets, different ways to visualize various data that we have. So the way we use it, so on the top left side, what you see is the issues calendar. This gives me an overview how many issues are due on a specific date in this month. So in November, for a particular project, because this is the way I filtered it out, I have only 2 issues that are currently due. Now I'm quite proud of the chart that we have on the right. The chart on the right shows us the difference between the created issues and the resolved issues. So the red line shows you the amount of created issues, the amount of work that we have in order to be done. The green line shows you the amount of resolved issues. So the wider the spread between the red and the green, the more work we already we have in progress, right? So I want to, as a team leader, as a project manager, I want to make sure that that the gap between the red and the green line does not widen, does not open up, right? So if I saw that on November 17th, well, we have a lot of created issues. We have altogether we have 11 created issues, and this is a cumulative diagram. And I only have resolved 3. Then I have 8 issues that are outstanding. I'm working on 8 things at a time. So I have spoken to the team. Then again, I have 14 issues created on the 18th of November, and only 3 of them are being resolved, right? So then again, I have a lot of discrepancies. So I talked to the team in order to increase the pace of resolving issues so that the green line can actually, like, visually can catch up with the red line. So this happened a little bit in there, but at the end of the day, it happened only only actually today or yesterday, right? So we catch up on this. So for the team leader, for a project manager, this is a great overview to understand whether we're catching up with the pace of the work that is being loaded onto us as a team or as a project, or whether we are lagging behind. And this is the first dashboard I look at. This is the first gadget I look to understand whether we need to speed up the pace, or whether I should talk to the business to make sure that we're not getting any more work because we're not managing to cover it, or I can actually relax because the team is catching up with the work that they should be doing. Other than that, what we have is a statistics of overdue tasks. So I can see what teams and what people have overdue tasks. So tasks that should have already been finished but are not resolved yet. And I can also identify those tasks by my priorities. So I can see that there is one task that is a high priority and one task that is an important priority. So this is also something I usually focus on as a team leader or project manager, trying to identify why we have an important task, an important issue that is overdue. What's the plan for addressing that thing, right? And the last thing I want to show in this case is the PM team set of tasks. So this grid gives me the idea of all the tasks that are assigned to the project management team. So I can see, for example, that there are 2 tasks that are assigned that have their assignees. So Evelina is taking one of them, I'm taking the other one, right? So, but I also have 5 tasks, five activities, issues that have been assigned to my team, to the project management team, but they have not been assigned to a person. So this is my job as a team leader, as a project management leader, to assign those tasks to particular people. So I can go into a specific task, open it up. I see a code refactoring task. Let's assume, for the sake of the discussion, that this is a project management task. I can assign it, I don't know, say to Katarzyna, right? Okay, let me refresh that dashboard. And there you go. Code refactoring is going to be assigned to Katarzyna already, right? So this is also an important grid that will give me an understanding how many tasks are there unassigned, and this is my job to make sure I minimize that number. So from a team leader's perspective, from a project manager's perspective, this is the dashboard that we use to monitor the project progress, to monitor the team's progress, to identify whether there is something outstanding that nobody's doing, to identify whether we have too much work and we have overdue tasks, so we can address or figure out preventive or corrective actions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will address them in our QA session. Okay, moving on to the program and portfolio level, and these two I am going to discuss together because they are quite similar. So in terms of the program, a program consists of, by definition, consists of multiple projects. In our case, a program is identified as a PM, PM1, PM3, and PM32. I have 3 projects, I have 3 projects in my program. My program is the PM and PMO, Program and Portfolio Management, and I have 3 projects in there. F&O implementation, D365 HR implementation, and the implementation itself. And within that project, within PM1, I can have multiple deliverables or multiple issues to be resolved. And I can have those for all the 3 projects that I have. Now, what you can see here on the left-hand side is also the status, the time tracking, the customized column, the time spent, or any other column that I have. So I can display multiple information in there. The information that we're using mostly is the status, is the time tracking, and the original estimate. So this and the remaining estimate. So this gives me an understanding, okay, how much time have I already spent on that particular issue? And this is the information, that big picture, this it takes from Jira, because what you're seeing here right now is an add-on to Jira and special application to Jira, which is the Big Picture. And the Big Picture application is the app that we're using for program and portfolio management. So right now, if I have an issue, SF1, the development approach, I have estimated that to last for 2 days. I have reported 7 hours for that, so I still have 1 day and 1 hour to be reported, right? So I know that the task is in progress. It's 43% of the time spent. So we assume it's 43% of the progress in this case, right? So where do we take this information? We take the 7-hour information from all the users. So Jira integrates with Big Picture seamlessly. So whenever I log additional hours into that task, I can also have that information updated, right? So let me do that in this case. I will quickly log 2 hours. And then you see 1 hour, one day, 1 hour logged, 7 hours remaining. Okay, so if I refresh this dashboard, if I refresh the Big Picture view, you will also see the updated information. SF1, 1 day, 1 hour spent, 7 hours remaining, right? So the information is being refreshed in real time, online, as soon as we actually put it in, right? So it's always up to date. So the other thing that we're using as a program and portfolio manager is the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart gives me an overview. Let me just show you a bigger picture. The Gantt chart gives me an overview of what it is that should be performed in this particular program or in these particular projects. But apart from a traditional Gantt chart, we can also display the dependencies between different activities, different issues that we also have in here. Okay, so this is something that is quite important. So what we can do is we can, for example, identify new dependencies that we have, and this is the place we can do it. Let me show you. I can say, okay, the delivery plan is dependent, it has a dependency to the delivery control, to this particular task. And notice, this DC1 task just moved up a little bit. So it's going to start earlier on. It's going to start as soon as the predecessor finishes, right? So the system automatically changes my time, optimizes my time, because I want to start as soon as possible. So it's an ASAP mode, right? So I start as soon as possible. There is no lag time. I can put, let's say, 5 days of lag time. I'm going to save it, and the DC1 shifts to the right on my time axis a little bit, right? So I have full control over that, and this is a great view for me, not only to identify dependencies within a specific project, just like we have in here, just like those dependencies, but I can also identify dependencies between different projects and mark them in here from a program management perspective. Now, the other interesting aspect from the program management perspective is the risks tab. So I can go to the risks tab, where I can see all my crucial risks that are identified for either the projects or the program. So we prefer to identify only the risks that are on the program level. So risks that can impact more than one project within our program. So I have 3 risks identified in here, and I have specific information regarding their probability and consequence. So probability and impact. I have the link to a specific project. I have their due date. I have their reporter, so who actually reported that risk, who that risk is assigned to, what's the status. I can directly go to that risk, go to that information from this board and put a comment in there as well. I have some history, I have some work log, So I have a multitude of information I can actually put in. What's actually interesting, I can just drag and drop to, for example, change my probability and consequence of the risk in here. So it's very intuitive, right? That's not that's not a problem. I can, let's say, yeah, I can drag and drop it in here. I can also change all that information down here. If you see right now in the list, in the grid of the risks, I have all the same information I have here on the visual, in the visual aspect. But I firmly believe that the visual aspect is way better. For the sake of this discussion, for the sake of this webinar, I have identified 3 risks. Our real program risks, risk board can have, well, dozens of risks, right? But again, we focus, and we recommend that you also focus in your work only on those risks that are inter-project risks, cross projects, right? So if there is a project risk within one project, we don't care about that from a program management perspective. We leave it to the project manager to resolve that risk. Now, if we have a project that actually impacts 2 projects, if we have a risk that impacts 2 projects, then yes, again, we want that risk to be on that program risk board, and we want to address that risk. All right. So a third option I want to show you on the program level is something that we are really heavily using and that we really like. And I'm going to focus quite a lot of time. I'm going to devote quite a lot of time to that. Is the resource and skills capacity management. So I want you to look at it from the perspective of both the program and portfolio level. But let me focus on the program level first. So I can see, let's focus on the individuals first. I can see all my team members in all my projects, in all my programs, and I can see what they are doing and how much work is it taking, how much of their time is taken away versus the time that they have, versus their capacity. Now you can see 3 colors. The green color represents the information where we say the person is utilized up to 75% of their utilization. So this person has, let's say, 23.3 hours left, and that's fine. Within that week, it is less than 75% of their utilization. Now, the orange bar rectangle represents the information that represents the threshold between 75 and 100% of utilization. So this gives us information that this person in this particular week is almost at full capacity utilized. Okay. Now, obviously, the red rectangles give us the information that the person is over allocated. So we spend more than 100% of the capacity. We load the person with more than 100% of their capacity. And probably if the number is extremely big, like in case of Katarzyna, we have a 34.8 or 66.8 of over allocation, that means we really need to change something, because effectively Katarzyna should be working 2 jobs, right? 2 FTEs. She's doing 2 FTEs of work in the 3 weeks, week 48, 49, and 50. And this is not what we want, right? So as a project manager, when I'm looking at resources, I want to understand how heavily my resources are currently allocated, but also how does it impact my schedules? How does it impact the sequence of activities that I have? And how does it impact my future allocation? So let me give you the examples of what we do in here. So, okay, what I can see is that Katarzyna has a lot of work in week 48, 49, and 50. Well, there are a couple of things I can do. She has actually 4 activities she's working on those weeks. So first of all, perhaps I can prolong one of those activities, and let's see how that helps her. I will prolong the delivery plan, let's say by 3 weeks, by up to week number 52. And as you can see, those numbers have already changed. So this is a great simulation for me to understand, okay, if I prolong the delivery plan by 3 weeks, actually I prolonged it by 2 weeks, let's prolong it by a week more. If I prolong it by the end of until the end of the year, well, Katarzyna is still over allocated, but her over allocation is not as big as it used to be. Okay, so what else? Well, maybe we can prolong another task for her, right? All right, so she's still a little over allocated, but not that much. But notice one more thing. Well, she's under allocated, so she has some spare time in weeks 45 and 46. Okay, well, what can we do with that? Well, first of all, probably we could shift, maybe we can try to prolong a different task, or if we don't want to do that, if that task cannot start, if those tasks cannot start at a particular date, maybe we can ask her to do some other work. So let's see, well, we have quite a couple of issues, quite a couple of activities that are unassigned. So we have a risk that is unassigned, we have an implementation and a delivery plan that are unassigned. All right, so maybe I can allocate that risk to Katarzyna in there. And there you go, you see? So she was under allocated, right now she's a little bit over allocated. So maybe if we're gonna say, okay, well, Katarzyna, please take ownership of that risk. Well, she's gonna say, you know what, I can do that, but I'm not gonna be able to do that in 2 weeks. I need another week probably. Okay, let's see. If we prolong it, okay, she's a little bit overloaded, but it's not much for the first 2 weeks. So for week 45 and 46, she is more overloaded on weeks 49 and 50. So we probably should do something with that. Again, maybe we can prolong the task. Maybe we can assign the task to somebody else. So this is the way it works for different skills as well. And we're gonna talk about the skills in a second. What else I can do? Now look at Michael Majewski here. He's a new member of our team, and Michał has not been assigned any tasks yet. So he's on the team, but he's not doing anything. Right? Okay. So, and I can see a lot of other people are actually red in multiple weeks. So probably Michał can help us with some work. So I can see Joanna here is really heavily over allocated in week 49. So let's help out. Let Michał help out Joanna. So I will assign a specific task from Joanna to Michał. Okay, there is one task. All right, maybe Michał will also do this task. Okay, and now you see Joanna is still a little bit over allocated, especially in week 49, but it's not as much as it used to be. So maybe Michał can take over one more thing. There you go. So Michał took over one more thing. Joanna is still over allocated. Michał is over allocated a little bit, but we can have another discussion. I can have a discussion whether to prolong the delivery approach. So Joanna perhaps will approach me and say, hey, Martin, you know what? I cannot do that. I need another week for that. Well, but prolonging doesn't really help us. Why? Because as you can see, we also take into account free time, vacations, holidays. So right now I can see that Joanna is absent on week 50, 51, and 52. So she's not going to be able to do the work. Okay, if she's not able to do the work, probably we should give it to somebody else. Maybe I will give it to Michał, but I will give it to him since week 51. Okay, so this is something we can do. What we recommend is that you use this as an indicator to talk to the team to understand how you can approach certain tasks, certain sequence of tasks, to understand your capacity and to understand the demand that you have from business. Why? Why the demand? The demand is really important when it comes to skills. And this is something I want to show you right now. So we can not only look at our resources from the perspective of individuals, which is, by the way, which is great, but I can also look from the perspective of skills. So every individual has certain skills assigned. Evelina is, I have three skills that I have identified: a consultant, developer, and a project manager. Evelina is a consultant, Jacek is a consultant, Joanna is a consultant and a developer. Katarzyna is a project manager, I'm a project manager, Michael is a developer, Pavel is a developer, right? So you can have people that have assigned different skills, and then from a business perspective, then you're usually asking the question, okay, do I have enough developer skills or enough project manager skills available for a project that is coming on in a specific period of time, right? So the business, when they approach us, usually they're not asking about a specific project manager. If they do, okay, we can discuss, we can negotiate on a team member level, but usually we analyze the skills availability, the capacity versus demand on the skill level. So notice what's happening. If my business approached me and said, hey, you know what, I have a new project and I need a project manager for that project, and the project is coming on in the first week of December, can you do that? Okay, well, without the skills, I wouldn't be able to answer the question that easily. But having that skills pane here, that grid, that table, I can see, well, my project managers are quite over allocated between weeks 49 and 52. So, my dear business, if this can wait until week 53, actually, if this can wait until the beginning of next year, that would be great. If the business says, sorry guys, we need this ASAP, then it's another discussion. Then we have to drill down into what the project managers are doing and what kind of other work we can shift or prolong so that the project managers can actually do the job right now. So, for example, if the business said, hey, you know what, I really need that project to start on by week 50. Okay, so what are my project managers doing on week 50? Well, we're working on a requirements list. Let's try to shift that requirements list maybe to next year if this is possible. Okay, so as you can see, my personal capacity has already been eased up a little bit on, and the project manager's availability is also red still, but the numbers are not that terrifying anymore, right? So okay, so let's move this one. Let's first make sure we have the right skills assigned for the job. Okay, I have a project manager skill assigned for the job. Let's refresh that. Okay, and let's move that work away, right? So I'm gonna move that work possibly somewhere even out into the second half of January if this is possible, right? So I still have quite a lot to work on. I can prolong the list of requirements, right? So maybe I can prolong the work that Katarzyna is doing, the delivery approach, so for one of the projects. And maybe I say, well, okay, I'm still a little over allocated, but I'll do my best. I'll try to make sure. Maybe I'll shift some resources, again, shift some tasks. So there's a lot of playing around, but visually you can easily see when you have resources and when you don't have the availability of your resources to address certain tasks. And this, of course, in turn, those changes that I make right now will result in changes to my program, right? So if I go back to my big picture on the overview level, on the Gantt level in my program, you will see, well, that things have already been shifted a little bit. So we are doing some work in January. We're doing even some work in probably in February, right? So all the changes that I've made on that resource and skills grid and table, those changes were proliferated to the Gantt chart, right? So I can already see that those changes are being performed in real time, right? So I still have a lot of people that are quite heavily over allocated in week number 50. So I would probably still have to figure out a way how to free some time in week 50, because that's not going to happen. Those people are not going to work 2 FTEs each of them, right? Perhaps this is also a very important message from me as a program manager or portfolio manager to my superiors, to the leadership in the organization. Hey guys, listen, I need additional resources in these particular weeks. So help me out, bring me somebody from the other departments in the organization, or let me hire somebody for 3 weeks of time to help me out in my temporary bottleneck that I have. So this is also the discussions that we're having. But it's really very beneficial to understand when you can actually start a new project, what kind of resources, what kind of skills you need. And this also requires something that I've done in here that you could see, assigning specific skills to specific issues or activities or tasks, right? You want to make sure that if I have a development approach, that we identify developer as the required skill for this task, right? So the data has to be complete in there. If we have that, then we can easily manipulate with that data and find out the best way to work with the capacity and demand, right? Because this is the huge challenge for us, and this is a huge challenge for our customers. And the way I'm presenting it to you right now, it may be on test data, on example data, because we're not showing customer data. But believe me, this really works quite well when we have certain discussions with the customer. When the customer says, hey, you know what, my business cannot start working in January. We have, because they have a lot of work up until January, we have to shift all the work that requires business input or their time to February or to March. Okay, that impacts our schedules, but this also comes from the resource availability. Okay, so the other thing that I want to show you is the dashboard from the program, for the program management level. So we're using very similar visualizations on the program management level in comparison to the project level, because, well, a program consists usually of projects. So we have the issues calendar to understand how many issues are due on a specific day, right? But as you can see, there are way more issues than in case of a single project. Other than that, we have a project overview to understand what kind of issues, what kind of activities, projects are being worked on by which person, and what is the priority of each of them, right? And what's the due date for all the issues. Now, on the right-hand side, you have the same visualization that I showed you on the project dashboard, project level dashboard, where we identified the created versus resolved to understand whether we're catching up with the work. But for the program level, we're not showing last 10 days, so last 2 weeks of work, but we're showing last 100 days, last 10 weeks of work, to understand whether we're catching up with whether the green line is catching up with the red line, how it changes over time. And it's really important to understand because, well, as managers, we want to make sure that we catch up as much as possible and we react as soon as we see that the red line is kind of going up really, really, the slope is really steep, and the green line, well, it's not moving actually at all, right? So then this is the time when we can react, just like here, the red line popped up. Well, okay, we reacted, we addressed some work, just like here, we had a lot of issues created, not a lot of resolved. We caught up with that a little bit, right? So right now we only had 3 of them unresolved, and then we had additional work being done, and I needed to make sure that the team understands that we need to put up the pace with resolving the issues that we have. Other than that, what I'm also showing, what I'm also monitoring is the work in process workload. The WIP workload shows me the amount of work reported to issues that have not yet been resolved. So the dev team actually reported 2 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours of issues, and that reported time has not yet turned into specific value because the issues that they reported, that they logged their work into, have not been resolved yet, right? So that's my work in progress. And obviously, well, I want to minimize the total time. So if I see 4 weeks, 1 day, and 2 hours total time of work in process, I'm probably going to talk to my teams and try to figure out, okay, can they actually start closing those issues? Because we put in a lot of effort, but there is not a lot of value out of that yet, right? So probably I would talk to the dev team first, then I would talk to the PM team saying, hey, you guys reported 3 days, 3 hours, and 30 minutes on work that has not provided any value yet. What it is that you're working on, what has to happen for you to close that work, to resolve those issues so that the value is returned to the customer. Okay, so this is a really important graph for me to understand where it is that we're working, but we're not providing value. Okay, so when it comes to the program management, I think those are the most important aspects I wanted to cover within that time frame that we have. When it comes to portfolio management, again, I would go back to the resources, and we've already touched on that as well in terms of resources and skills, right? If a new project is coming up in the first half of December, can I take it on, right? So the program management usually focuses on the resource level, and we need to make sure that we identified our resources, and we have identified all the skills that every resource has. And then on the portfolio level, we usually look at the skills grid to understand whether we have the availability of skills, whether we underutilize certain skills. Look, I'm underutilizing my project managers in November, pretty much, but I'm heavily overutilizing them in December. That's not right, right? So probably I should make sure I can do some stuff, some project manager stuff earlier on, so I can engage my project managers in November, so that they are less engaged in December. That would be my first guess, right? But those are the numbers that give me a certain path to look for different ideas, right? I have to base on some numbers, and this is our philosophy. We focus on the evidence-based management. So we're not talking just based on our gut feelings. We're talking based on that data. So the screen that you see here is the screen that we're also covering on our weekly meetings to understand whether we have those resources or not, what should happen, what it is that we're working on, what it is that we're stuck on, what are the risks, what are the opportunities, where it is that we have bottlenecks, and who needs help, right? So in order to answer all those questions, we use the data that you see in the manner that I have just described. So before we move on to the Q&A session that I want to do, and I want to dedicate 10 minutes of our time to that, let me just show you the portfolio dashboard. So the portfolio dashboard lists all my projects in the portfolio. The portfolio dashboard lists all the issues in my projects by the assignee. So I can see Jacek is working on 7 issues, and that's 58% of all the issues that the team is working on within a portfolio. And I can also see all my issues split by priority. So I can see there are 17 issues that have high priority. There are 7 issues that have important priority. And this is also very important for me to understand whether I have a lot of critical, important issues, or maybe I have more trivial issues. In this case, well, I have just a few critical issues, right? And I can click on that and view those issues in the issue navigator, right? I have 4 critical issues, and I can go through them one by one. I can discuss them with the team. I can understand what's going on, what it is that we're working on, whether we resolved it or not. Okay. Now, what's interesting, in terms of the dashboards, those are the gadgets that we use, of course, but you can easily add a multitude of other gadgets for you if you need them, right? So we're not using a multitude. We're not using several plus gadgets on every dashboard because it doesn't really make sense. From our practical experience, we recommend you use 3 to 4 gadgets per dashboard so that the information is clear and there is not too much information, too much data in there, because it's going to be quite hard to read any conclusions out of it. Out of these 3, I can quickly read conclusions. The first conclusion that I have: hey, Jacek is working on a lot of things. Does Jacek need help? Maybe Evelina or Joanna or Katarzyna should help him. Maybe I can help him, right? Because he's working on 58% of all our issues, right? So he's a one-man army, pretty much. And the other thing, well, we have a lot of high and important issues. Hopefully, thankfully, we don't have that many critical, but we only have 1 trivial, right? So it's still, the importance of the issues is relatively high when it comes to the percentage. Okay, so those you can use other gadgets as well. You can export the dashboards. You can share the dashboards with other people in your organization. You can have those dashboards only private to you. That's not a problem. So you have a lot of functionalities in there. Plus, Atlassian provides a whole marketplace where you can actually buy or use for free multiple other gadgets. Marketplace pretty much works like App Store or Google Play in Android. So you have a lot of different plugins that you can use for your Atlassian platform, for big picture, for the timesheets, for the gadgets and the dashboards. So you can have a lot of functionalities in there. And this the marketplace is actually developed by the community. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so I have a lot of different plugins. Let's say timesheet. I have 68 different plugins that I can install on my Jira, on my Atlassian platform, to help me out with my plugins. Some of them are free, some of them are need to be paid for. So yeah, we can use those just as an App Store or a Google Play Store. Okay, so we still have 7 minutes left. Now, in terms of the presentation itself, I think that is it. Now let me skip to the Q&A mode. I will address as many questions as I can in the time that we have left. Okay, so let me get to those questions from the very beginning. Okay. Okay, let's start with that. Oh, Maciej, okay. Could you have a what-if scenario analysis for assessing resource capacity in terms of skills or people? I'd like to perform simulations like you were showing when discussing resource capacity management. Yes, we can do that. So usually what we recommend is that you use a is you use a staging environment or a development environment where you play around with the data. Also make sure that whenever you use an environment, a production environment, you can actually enable notifications so that all the changes that I made right now today are going to be given to all the people in there, right? So if I shift a task, for example, Evelina was having a task, and right now this task is on me. Now I'm going to be given a notification. So I'm going to get a notification. And if you're not wise, if you're not smart about your notifications, you can spam the inboxes quite easily. You're going to have like thousands or hundreds of emails every day. Okay. Another question from Michael. Is the PPM an additional product of Atlassian, or is it leveraging Jira software? The project portfolio management is an additional product of Atlassian. This is big picture. Okay. Can I differ between executable issues and issues waiting for another issue to be resolved, Jürgen? Yes, I can easily see those when I go to my big picture Gantt to understand the issues that are executable, so nothing is blocking them, right? So let me go to that Gantt in there, and I can see all the issues that have some dependency. Plus, if I click on an issue, I can see different inward dependencies in that issue, inward or outward dependency, right? So linked issues. In every issue, LinkedIn issue has to be done after this issue. Okay, if I go to that issue, links issues, okay, has to be done before the other one. So on an issue level, I can see whether there are any linked issues, and this is my differentiation. Okay. Can you show what will happen on the dashboard if somebody spent more than planned time on a particular issue? On a dashboard, if we have more than planned time, let's say I log in another 2 days, time spent, right? So this is SF1. Let me come back to that in the way I can show you this on a slide. I will provide you with a presentation where we have that additional information as well. It's going to pop up with information that we're over allocated on that issue, that we overspent our time. Okay, Grzegorz, different people have different skill levels. How do you consider that person X will complete the task twice as fast as person Y? Can this be taken into account? Usually what we do is we identify only the different skills. We don't differentiate on the skill level. So if I identify a skill of a developer, and then if I assign a specific activity to a specific person, then I can say I'm going to do it in less time or more time. So basically, if you see, okay, original estimation, Michał is a regular developer, so he's going to do that work in 1 week, okay? But maybe if I give it to Paweł is a senior developer, and he's going to do that in 2 or 3 days of work, right? It still has an original estimate of 1 week, but this is the way I can take into account the seniority factor, if that clears the picture. Okay. Can skills be redefined? Are skills global to the Jira instance? So basically, we can fully redefine the skills. We can be totally flexible. We can we can define different skills. Like there could be a Linux admin skill, there could be a Windows admin, not a problem. Architect, PM, developer, QA, whoever else. So the list is totally up to you. We recommend we recommend that you do not dwell too much into details when it comes to skills, because it's easy to get lost, and you're going to have people that have like 17 skills, and it's going to be really, really hard, right? So we tend to keep it on a general level, but if you want to go deeper, not a problem. We have full flexibility on that. Are the skills global to the Jira instance? Yes, the skills can be global to the Jira instance as well. Okay, guys, so I think we're running out of time. It's 4 p.m. I know that I have not answered all the questions, but I want to keep the time box. It's just also out of respect for your time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the questions and the answers that were the questions that were asked, and I'm going to share all the answers with you as well. The questions that were not answered here today. So all the questions that I have not answered, I will answer in the following correspondence with you. Okay, so that would wrap up today's webinar. I hope that you found it valuable. So if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. I will make sure that you also have my email, my phone number. I will personally reach out to you as well. Hope you enjoyed that webinar, and hope you also got some value out of how you can use Atlassian platform in order to enhance and improve your practices when it comes to project portfolio management. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your attention, for the questions. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon on one of our other events.